this is where society is going to be. These are the people leading and directing, or going to be leading and directing and guiding our broader society in 10 to 15 years. And this is the most impressionable time of their life. And they're hearing all of these numerous voices and all these numerous worldviews that say this is where you find satisfaction. This is where ultimate meaning comes from. This is what you need to truly feel content and to truly be happy. And in the meantime, the one thing that offers them true contentment, the one well that will never run dry, is a life found in the person of Christ. My name is Garrett Berk. I'm a campus ministry director. I serve with Campus Ambassadors. I am currently directing the ministry at Chemeketa Community College in Salem, Oregon. I was born in a small town in eastern Washington, the Bible Belt of Washington, if you will. I was raised by a wonderful, loving Christian mother and father, 2 older brothers, baptized at a young age, confirmed in the 8th grade. Church life, our faith life, is an integral part of our life. It was our life essentially growing up in many aspects, and it just made sense to me. It was a simple childlike faith. But then as I got older, after high school, I started to ask myself, well, what if another worldview, what if another idea actually explains the world better than the Judeo-Christian worldview? And I ended up down a lot of paths, examining a lot of ideas, concepts. At the end of the day, the only thing that made sense of life, the only thing that gave life meaning and purpose, was an understanding of who God is, who Jesus is, and the biblical worldview. And it just began to click. I began to realize this isn't just something I grew up going through. This is something that is actually real, that God is real, and that He has a plan for my life. In 2012, I graduated from Multnomah Seminary in Portland, Oregon. And at that point, the plan that I had for myself was I wanted to go on, do my PhD. I wanted to teach church history and ethics. I had a passion for it, love for it. I had a number of influential people in my life suggest the idea that you have your whole life to go back to school. You have your whole life to pursue your education. You've been going to school for 6 straight years. And in 2012, I was married to my wonderful wife, Jessica. And they said that you have one chance to get your marriage right, to build that solid foundation. So they suggested taking some time off and focusing on that. It was challenging because I'm a doer. I say, what is the next step? Where is the next thing for me? Well, it was during that time that I was introduced to a man named Richard Ferradinos. Grabbed coffee one day. He shared his story about how the reason he's walking with the Lord today, the reason why he is doing the work that God has given him, the reason why he's blessed to lead other students to the Lord and walk with them in their faith, is because a man named Dan Barham, who is the regional director for Campus Ambassadors of the Northwest, a decade prior, had asked him while he was a student at Chemeketa, have you ever read the Bible? Have you ever thought about who Jesus is? And just invited him in to examine that question with him. It was that personal story of the impact that somebody connecting and meeting people where they're at, the impact that can have. God began to work in my heart a passion to share that. And initially I was hesitant. It was not my plan. It was not what I had on my radar. But in a way, it made me more comfortable with it because I realized my lack of comfort, my lack of certainty means this isn't the plan I have for my life. It's God and His plan for my life. I applied in the summer of 2012 and was officially appointed in February of 2013. I once heard somebody say, if you want to see where the broader culture is going to be in 10 to 15 years, go take a walk around a college campus. And for some people that might be terrifying. But the interesting thing about college campuses is that the ideas of the broader culture hasn't necessarily quite adopted as mainstream yet are the mainstream in universities especially. One of the unique challenges of college ministry, obviously, is having to walk in 2 worlds. At the same time, we want to be bold in our proclamation, the truth of who Jesus is, the truth of His gospel message, but we recognize that we're serving in an area where many of the leaders and many of those who have the decision-making power don't share that worldview, and in many cases might be antagonistic towards that worldview. We're blessed to have a great relationship with the administration at Chemeketa. They enjoy having us there. They appreciate us being there. They realize the campus is a better place because the ministry of CA is ministering and serving students there and creating community. But it's not always the case on every campus. There's a lot of amazing stories. There's a lot of amazing ways in which God is moving. And what's especially really cool is the wide range of stories that we see. We have students as young as 16 on our leadership team who are doing early college, all the way to 44-year-old mothers and fathers of 4 who are going back to school. One in particular that's especially moving happened a couple years ago. We were having our weekly philosophical discussion group at Chemeketa, and a young lady at the table next to us turns around and is kind of peering over, and I look over and I say, "Hey, do you want to come join us?" And she said, "Well, I love a donut. That sounds really good. And why not?" So she comes on over, sits down, introduces herself. Her name is Emily. We had a great conversation, and afterwards we sat and had lunch, talked to Emily, got to know her a little bit. It was her first year there at school. She shares the fact that she's not a Christian, but she had grown up attending church somewhat regularly with her family, but had walked away and had fallen away and had made a regular part of her life. Over the course of the next several months, we invited Emily to come and join us at our weekly student discipleship groups that we were participating in. What was really, really funny, at one point, I was sending Emily a message on my phone, and my wife was standing there in the kitchen while we were cooking dinner, and she looked down, and Emily had a very unique last name, and she sees it on my phone. She said, "Emily, wait a minute. I taught her in my 2nd grade classroom." The next day I was meeting up with Emily for lunch, and I said, "By the way, who's your 2nd grade teacher?" And she said, "Oh, Mrs. Bacher. I love her. She was amazing." She asked me how I knew her, and I said, "Well, if you'd like to talk to her, you can ask her yourself, because I happened to marry her." Skip forward a couple of months after that, late January of 2022, Emily just comes up to us one day as we're getting ready to have discipleship group and said, "Last night I gave my life to the Lord, and I decided I want to live for Him." We celebrated a couple weeks later at our winter retreat. We presented her with her first Bible she ever owned, customized with her name on it. And currently, she actually finished up her AA at Chemeketa last year and is transferred out to finish her degree at Western Oregon University. So I was able to connect her with our amazing ministry team out there. She's living in the ministry house with many other girls, serving in leadership, participating in regular worship, is connected with an amazing church home, and is thriving in her walk with the Lord. The idea is you get to the point where they're serving, they're running, they're leading their own things, and because they've been trained, because they've been encouraged, and because they've been faithful, we recognize that great ministry is happening even if I'm not there. You get that ball rolling, it makes it much, much easier not just to continue doing what you're doing, but to expand and open up opportunities. Every other Missions Door missionary and campus ambassador missionary, the work we do is only made possible through the incredible support and partnership of individuals like you. First and foremost, prayer. Prayer for God's continued guidance. Pray that He would be glorified. Pray that He would continue to guide us, and pray that our trust would be in Him. Secondly is words of encouragement. Augustine once famously said, "Pray as if everything depended upon God, and work as if everything depended upon you." And that is the motto I try to live by every day in ministry. So encouragement is great. And obviously, from a pragmatic sense, financial support is huge. We are so blessed that I'm able to do this full time and not have to worry about how the lights are going to stay on or the mortgage paid, because of the encouragement, because of the financial support and the blessing of so many amazing individuals and congregations. I know many missionaries over the years who've had to work 2 or 3 jobs just to be able to keep the bills paid, and that limits the ability they have to shepherd their flock, to serve those God has called them to serve. And I'm blessed to be able to do this full time. Some of the things your financial support helps provide include, but aren't limited to, Bibles, books, other devotional materials, printing costs, student scholarships for retreats and other events, food and coffee. The fastest way to a college student's soul is through their stomach. There's no big secret there. So being able to just have regular meals at our house or at my church or on campus and have fellowship together, breaking bread, examining God's Word, is huge. It provides benevolence needs for many of our students who are struggling, coming out of incarceration or addiction, trying to get their lives figured out, just the essentials of life. It provides travel costs for various events. I mean, I go on and on and on, but right now we are in the season where we're growing almost too big for what we have, and we say, what is the next step? And the resources that we're blessed with enable us to dream and think, what could that next step be? And again, it's only possible by the encouragement and the support and the prayer of so many individuals like you.